General Hospital will reveal Brennan is not just a station chief for the WSB, he is a seasoned and highly skilled operative who has spent years navigating the murky world of espionage, deception, and covert operations. His profession is built on secrets and lies, tools he wields with precision to protect the greater good. Living in the shadows, he has learned to keep his emotions in check, knowing that attachments can be both a liability and a weapon in the wrong hands. His mission has always been clear: to neutralize threats before they become unstoppable. Yet, despite his calculated nature, there are moments when instinct overrides logic, as was the case when he first observed Jocelyn. Brennan immediately recognized something in Jocelyn that most others would overlook: a sharp mind, a natural intuition, and an innate ability to read situations with clarity beyond her years. She carried herself with a quiet confidence, her strength and determination unmistakable. To an ordinary observer, she was just another young woman carving her path, but to a seasoned operative like Brennan, she had all the makings of a skilled agent. Rather than simply observing from a distance, he took a step further, recruiting her into the clandestine world of espionage. He saw in her a spark, a potential that could be refined into something formidable. It wasn't a decision made lightly, but one based on an unshakable belief that she had what it took to survive in his world. At the same time, Brennan found himself drawn to Carly, Jocelyn's mother, a woman who radiated an undeniable strength and resilience. Unlike the people he typically encountered in his line of work, Carly was no stranger to adversity, nor was she someone easily intimidated. She met life's challenges head-on, refusing to be defined by them. That kind of fire intrigued him, pulling him into something he never anticipated: desire. Yet, despite his attraction to her, Brennan was keenly aware of the complications that came with his line of work. Being a spy wasn't just about keeping secrets from enemies, it meant keeping them from the people he cared about, too. He had seen time and time again how love could be a weakness, how emotions could be exploited and used against those who dared to feel too deeply. Chris McKenna recently spoke about the darkness that comes with being a spy, hinting at how it would inevitably affect Brennan's romantic entanglements. Brennan knows better than anyone that a relationship with Carly would come at a cost. Loving her would mean dragging her into a world where trust is a fragile thing and danger lurks in every corner. The more he allows himself to care, the more vulnerable she becomes, not just to the enemies he's made, but to the choices he's forced to make every day. Yet, despite all logic, despite all the walls he's built around himself, the pull toward Carly remains. He knows he should walk away, keep his distance, and leave her untouched by the shadows he inhabits. But the question remains, can he? Or will he allow himself, for the first time in a long time, to embrace something real, even if it means risking everything? Brennan's darkness is not just a byproduct of his profession, it is something that resides deep within him, shaping his decisions, his outlook, and the way he navigates the world. Though he initially appeared to be an antagonist, a shadowy figure operating with questionable motives, he has since revealed himself to be far more complex than a simple villain. His actions have proven that, despite his morally ambiguous methods, he is willing to stand on the right side when it truly matters. He played a pivotal role in rescuing Anna, Jason, Lucky, and Holly from certain death at the hands of the ruthless Sidwell, demonstrating that his allegiance, however unclear at times, ultimately aligns with those fighting for justice. Yet, Brennan is not a conventional hero. Unlike those who are bound by unwavering principles and strict moral codes, he operates within a different set of rules, rules dictated by necessity, survival, and an understanding of the gray areas that exist between right and wrong. His tactics can be ruthless, his choices cold and calculated, because that is what the job demands. In his world, hesitation can mean death, and trusting the wrong person can bring disaster. He has long accepted that, in order to protect the greater good, he must be willing to do what others cannot. However, Carly has managed to stir something in him, something unexpected and unfamiliar. She represents everything that his world lacks: warmth, defiance, and a refusal to be controlled by fear. She does not shrink under pressure, nor does she allow herself to be intimidated by the darkness that Brennan carries with him. Perhaps that is why he is drawn to her. In a life filled with deception and shadows, she is a reminder of something real, something worth fighting for. But what does that mean for a man who has spent his entire existence avoiding attachments? Can he allow himself to feel, to want, without compromising everything he has built? Chris McKenna, in an interview with Soap Opera Digest, spoke about the unique challenge of portraying Brennan, drawing from his past experiences playing government operatives for agencies like the DEA, FBI, and CIA. He has worked closely with technical advisors, including real-life CIA agents, which has given him a deeper understanding of the psyche of those who live and breathe espionage. He explained that when approaching this role, he envisioned Brennan as a man who had spent decades within the WSB, and that level of commitment to the agency could only mean one thing: there is darkness inside him, a darkness that has been nurtured over years of service. Brennan has spent a lifetime in the shadows, and that darkness is not something that can simply be turned off. It is ingrained in his very being, influencing the way he moves, the way he thinks, the way he loves. To be an operative for as long as he has been means making impossible choices, sacrificing pieces of himself along the way, and accepting that normalcy is an illusion he can never fully grasp. The longer he remains entangled with Carly, the more he is forced to confront the parts of himself that he has long buried, parts that crave something more than just survival. But there is danger in vulnerability, and Brennan knows that better than anyone. His past has shown him that love is often used as a weapon, that caring for someone makes them a target. He has seen what happens when agents allow emotions to cloud their judgment, and he has no intention of making the same mistakes. And yet, despite his best efforts to remain detached, to keep his emotions locked away, Carly continues to chip away at his walls, forcing him to question whether he is capable of something more than just existing in the shadows. The question remains: can Brennan truly escape the darkness that defines him, or will he ultimately be forced to choose between the only life he has ever known and the woman who threatens to pull him into the light? Brennan is not just a man who operates in the shadows, he carries those shadows within him, etched into his very being like scars that will never fully heal. The darkness that lingers around him is not merely a product of his profession but a direct consequence of the unspeakable things he has had to do in the name of duty. As Chris McKenna elaborated, Brennan's soul is scarred by the choices he has made, the missions that required him to set aside his humanity for the sake of survival. He has witnessed, and likely committed, acts that would haunt even the strongest of men. It is this very weight, this burden of conscience, that makes his potential romance with Carly all the more fascinating, because for a man like Brennan, who has spent his entire life compartmentalizing emotions, to suddenly find himself at a crossroads where he must allow those emotions to surface is both terrifying and exhilarating. For years, Brennan has lived by a strict code: emotions are liabilities, attachments are weaknesses, and love is a distraction that can get people killed. He has mastered the art of shutting off his feelings, of existing in a state of controlled detachment. But now, for the first time in what feels like an eternity, he finds himself drawn to someone in a way that forces him to question everything he thought he knew. Carly is not like the women who come and go in his world, those who understand the risks and accept the temporary nature of a relationship with a man like him. She is different. She is fiery, independent, and utterly unafraid to challenge him. And that terrifies Brennan more than any enemy he has ever faced. McKenna explained that this is what raises the stakes so high, making Brennan's journey so compelling. Love, for a man who has spent decades suppressing it, is not a simple matter. It is a battle, a war waged within himself. And if Carly, is able to break through that carefully constructed armor and reach his heart, then Brennan will be facing the greatest fight of his life. It is not a physical fight, nor one that can be won with strategy or skill, but a fight against his own nature, against the man he has forced himself to become in order to survive. The stakes are made even higher by the secret he is keeping, a secret that, if revealed, could shatter any possibility of a future between them. Carly is a fiercely protective mother, and if she were to discover that Brennan had recruited her daughter, Jocelyn, into the perilous world of espionage, her reaction would be nothing short of explosive. Brennan may believe that Jocelyn has what it takes to be an exceptional agent, but Carly would see it as a betrayal of the highest order. To her, it wouldn't matter that he saw potential in Jocelyn or that he believed he was preparing her for a life of purpose and power. It would only matter that he had taken her daughter and thrust her into a world of deception, danger, and death. This looming revelation threatens to turn their budding romance into a battlefield, one where love and betrayal are so tightly intertwined that the lines between them blur. And yet, this very tension is what makes their dynamic so electrifying, not just for the audience, but for McKenna himself. The actor finds the complexities of Brennan's struggle to be the most intriguing part of the character, because in many ways, Brennan is at war with himself just as much as he is with the enemies he has faced in his career. He is a man teetering on the edge of change, caught between the life he has always known and the possibility of something more. The question remains, will Brennan allow himself to embrace the light that Carly represents, or will his past and the secrets he keeps inevitably drag them both into the darkness? And if Carly learns the truth, will she ever be able to see him as anything other than the man who put her daughter's life in danger? One thing is certain, if Brennan is to pursue this relationship, he will be fighting the greatest battle of his life, not against an external enemy, but against himself. Brennan is a man forged in fire, his soul marked by the choices he has made and the sacrifices that have defined his career. The darkness within him is not just a product of his profession, it is woven into the fabric of his being, the result of years spent operating in a world where morality is blurred and survival depends on one's ability to make the impossible decisions without hesitation. As Chris McKenna has shared in recent interviews, Brennan is not just another spy. He is a man who has lived with the weight of his past, carrying scars that are more than just physical. They are emotional, psychological, and deeply ingrained in his identity. For McKenna, stepping into the role of Brennan has been an opportunity to explore a character who is far from one-dimensional. While Brennan was initially introduced as a potential antagonist, his evolution has captivated audiences, revealing layers of complexity that make him impossible to categorize as simply good or bad. He exists in a morally gray space, where his actions are dictated not by personal desires but by the mission at hand. This is a man who has done terrible things in the name of duty, who has had to silence his conscience in order to carry out operations that most people could not even fathom. And yet, despite the darkness that clings to him, there is a part of Brennan that longs for something more, something real. This is where his dynamic with Carly becomes so compelling. McKenna has spoken about how Brennan is a man who has spent decades shutting out emotions, believing that love and vulnerability are luxuries he cannot afford. But Carly represents a challenge he did not expect. She is fearless, unpredictable, and completely unafraid to stand her ground against him. Unlike those who tiptoe around the danger he represents, she meets him head-on, refusing to be intimidated. This fascinates Brennan, drawing him toward her in ways he cannot fully understand. He is a man who has been trained to suppress feelings, to compartmentalize every aspect of his life, yet Carly has managed to chip away at his defenses, forcing him to confront emotions he thought he had buried long ago. McKenna has emphasized that this internal conflict is what makes Brennan's journey so thrilling to portray. The idea of a hardened, emotionally detached operative suddenly finding himself at a crossroads, where he must either allow himself to feel or risk losing the one person who makes him question his own nature, is what gives Brennan his depth. The stakes are higher than ever, because for a man like Brennan, love is not just an emotion, it is a risk, a liability, a vulnerability that could be exploited. And if someone manages to break through his armor and truly reach him, it means he will have to face the greatest battle of his life, not against an enemy, but against himself. But the tension does not end there. As McKenna has hinted, there is another looming conflict that could tear Brennan and Carly apart before they even have a chance to truly explore what exists between them. That conflict is Jocelyn. Brennan's decision to recruit Carly's daughter into the world of espionage may have been made with the belief that he was offering her a purpose, a way to channel her natural instincts into something powerful. But Carly would never see it that way. To her, it would not matter that Brennan saw potential in Jocelyn or that he believed he was guiding her toward a future where she could make a difference. The only thing that would matter is that he took her daughter and placed her in a world of deception, danger, and death, a world that Carly never wanted Jocelyn to be a part of. McKenna has teased that if Carly were to discover this truth, it would change everything. Trust would be shattered, and whatever fragile connection they had been building would be at risk of complete destruction. This revelation would force Brennan to make a choice, continue down the path he has always walked, where secrecy and strategy dictate his every move, or fight for something different, something that terrifies him just as much as it tempts him. The beauty of Brennan's character arc, as McKenna describes it, is that he is not a man who changes easily. He is not someone who will suddenly abandon the principles that have governed his life for decades. His struggle will be long, painful, and filled with setbacks. But that is what makes his story so compelling, watching a man who has only ever known the shadows wrestle with the idea of stepping into the light. This journey is far from over. McKenna has hinted that there are still many layers to Brennan that have yet to be uncovered, many secrets that will continue to shape his relationships and his future. As the story unfolds, viewers can expect more twists, more moral dilemmas, and more moments that will challenge Brennan in ways he has never been challenged before. His battle with himself, with his past, and with the people who are beginning to matter to him will only grow more intense. For those who have found themselves drawn to Brennan's complex nature, McKenna's portrayal promises that there is much more to come. His insights into the character have already deepened fans' appreciation for Brennan's struggles, and as the stakes continue to rise, so too will the emotional weight of his decisions. One thing is certain, Brennan's story is far from over, and with every episode, audiences will be left wondering, will he embrace the light, or will the darkness that has always defined him prove too powerful to escape? Stay tuned for the next chapters, because the most thrilling and emotional moments are yet to come.